How's it going?
I'm Sarah,
I'm Cole.
and you're listening to Borrowed Bones, a podcast about fucked up, interesting, and toxic families.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we are finishing up our 3-part series on the Sexton family.
Closing chapter of the trilogy.
Yes. Again, not my family, another Sexton family, no relation.
Yes.
I am very ready for this to be over.
Yeah, it's a saga.
Yes, the Sexton saga.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to jump right into it. I want this to be done and out of my life and then regain my own Sexton name and my own Sexton identity.
Yeah. Tell me, recap me where we left off last week, or last episode, I should say.
So part 2, we left off with a large portion of the family now on the run in Indiana. They ran out in like an RV camper.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're right now preparing for the government to get them. They're going to the Army surplus store, working out, like prepping.
And the government is after them now.
Yes.
Right. Okay. They're not just fleeing because they're paranoid. Like, there finally is, the authorities are coming for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
Detectives Reedy and Go are the ones that are on the case.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And Reedy is currently trying to track down the Sextons.
Cool.
Also, at the end of part 2, Lana was starting to open up a bit more. Lana is about, I think she's 12 or 13
is she the
at this time.
She's the second youngest.
Yeah, I don't know where she falls in line, but I think she's the second youngest daughter.
Okay.
And she's 12 or 13, and she's still with her foster parents.
Okay. She's
starting to open up more. Remember, she opened the floodgates a little bit when her older brother, Charles, the one that was in Indiana.
Yes.
He went back to the Sexton family, and then Lana said, hey, I don't want my little sister Kim being with him because Charles raped me.
Yeah. And Kim is the youngest.
The youngest.
The baby of the family. Okay.
And for anyone who is checking out part 3 and hasn't checked out part 1 or part 2, trigger warning.
Yeah.
A lot of bad things here, and it only keeps going. So
only gets grislier.
All the triggers, and that's yes.
Yeah. I don't know why you would listen to part 3 of anything without parts 1 and 2, but I don't know.
There's someone for everything.
Yeah.
Lana was opening up more, talking about Charles, and she also, if you remember, was the one that Eddie Lee claimed has the same line on the palm of her hand.
The lifeline or whatever.
Yes, and she's a future Tron.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Lee is also a future Tron.
Yeah. Taking on more and more religious, cultish behaviors with like a weird theology.
Yes.
Belief system and super specific supernatural things that he invents.
Yeah, more for a paranoia stance.
Yeah.
There's no real story as to what a future Tron is.
Yeah,
it's more just they're out to get us. We're powerful, and the satanic panic of it all. Like, what does he think? I don't know. The Satanists are after him and Lana. It's just paranoia that he's striking into his family.
And the question is, obviously, how much does he really believe it, or is he just telling them lies?
Right.
You know.
For part 3, we are going to follow a little bit of Lana's thread this time, because now she is opening up more. She's worried about her siblings, and all of this is taking a physical toll on her. She's having a hard time. I mean, she's in puberty. Her hormones are already going wild, and she's dealing with things that most people never have to deal with.
Yeah, thankfully. A lot more than you'd think.
Yeah. Lana started telling her foster parents more stories. One of them was that Eddie Lee cut Lana's twin away from her at birth and then killed the twin.
All right.
Lana only knows this because an older sister told her. I don't know if it's true or not, but when telling this story, Lana says to her foster parents, that could have been me.
Ah, okay.
So whether or not the story is real, they're using it to let her know she could die.
I came this close to killing you. I just, by flip of a coin, I killed your sister instead of you.
Yes.
Probably never was a twin. Or
I don't know. I think she did have a scar on her back.
Oh, like a conjoined twin. Okay.
Yeah, like cut it off of her.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Again, not sure.
Yeah.
She also said whenever her mom would get pregnant, Eddie Lee would beat May's stomach and she would bleed, and then she would be told to drink the blood.
Oh my God.
I think that's true.
That's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. By July of 1993, Lana has been interviewed multiple times, and each one taking a larger and larger toll on her.
Of course.
She became bulimic, and she started to talk about suicide.
Mm-hmm.
She became more paranoid and withdrawn, eventually showing signs of being demonically possessed. She would speak in low, growly voice saying, "He wants me. You're not getting her. She's mine." And she was saying that that was Eddie Lee.
Okay. So clearly she's snapping.
Yes.
I mean, obviously she's not really possessed by a demon.
Correct.
But
she was claiming to hear her dad's voice. Lana also believed her dad was Satan and that she would have to kill her foster parents because they knew too much.
Mm-hmm. I wonder where she got those ideas from.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's been indoctrinated.
Yeah. Lana's foster parents put her in therapy. And they also consulted with their pastor, but they went the medical route. They didn't believe she was possessed by anything. Yeah. They are people of God, and people do seek religion for comfort other than, demonic reasons.
Yeah.
They believe that she was dealing with PTSD or borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
I don't know what she's been diagnosed with. That's not for sure. But that was what they were thinking they were dealing with. Like you said, she's snapping. Her brain is
she's having
breaking.
A breakdown of some kind. Yeah.
Which, of course. God. Now we are going to see what the rest of the Sextons are doing, the ones that are on the run.
On their road trip from hell.
Just to recap, it is Eddie Lee.
Mm-hmm. That's the dad.
Mm-hmm. May.
Wife.
Charles, son.
Mm-hmm.
Pixie, daughter. Joel is Pixie's husband.
Okay.
And then their 3 kids, Dawn, Shasta, and Skipper. Then brother Willie, brother Chris, and sister Kim, and brother Matt.
Okay.
So total, that is 12.
12 people in one Winnebago, right? There's not like a fleet of them. It's just the one vehicle.
It's not a Winnebago brand, but RV camper. I think it's like Dodge or whatever. I don't really know the brand.
It's like a name brand.
Yes.
Like Kleenex kind of thing. But I just mean generic RV.
Yes. So the 12 of them were actually staying in a trailer park in Indiana, but they still were staying in one trailer.
Yeah.
They were paying rent for a little bit. They stayed in Indiana for around 5 months.
Okay.
They started to feel the squeeze with more people being added. Like I said, in the second part, they started collecting their kids. Mm-hmm. So slowly they're getting more and more of them over the course of these 5 months.
Yeah. And other people renting lots next to them are starting to notice. I mean,
the owner of the trailer park was noticing more and more people showing up. And he did tell them, you can't do that. You have to move.
Yeah.
Now, this is June of 93.
Okay.
We're going to hop a little just because that's the nature of this tale. Eddie Lee told his family that they're going to move to Florida. In Florida is Eddie's brother, Dave, Dave's wife, Jean, and their family. They have 3 trailers that they own in Florida.
Okay. Are they on the level or are they weird?
They're weird.
Okay.
I mean, they don't really do too much, but they're not great.
Okay.
No, they're not good. There's a whole side story with Dave and Jean, and I don't really want to get into it, but they're not good.
Okay.
Dave and his wife, Jean, live in one trailer. Dave's son and his family live in another trailer. And then Sherry Sexton and her son, Chris, live in the third. Because remember, when they were all separated in the very beginning, Pixie and Sherry were told by social worker Wayne Welsh they should leave because they have small children.
That's right.
And Eddie Lee sent Sherry to Florida to live with Dave.
That's right. Okay.
So they're meeting up with Sherry and more family down in Florida. They're on their way.
Picking up children in their caravan.
I want to talk about Sherry real quick with what happened with her while she was in Florida. When she went to Florida, Sherry does say that she was raped by her Uncle Dave.
Okay. There it is.
And this isn't even like the side story. He has his own family issues that we're not going to get into.
Okay. Yeah.
Sherry also said that 1 week later, her cousin raped her. Dave's son.
Okay.
After this, Sherry took her son and moved into a battered women's shelter. She then moved out of there, lived with a couple, and then she moved out of there and moved in with an interracial couple. Once this happened...
You say that, and I feel like there's a reason
this
you
was
noted
the
that.
trigger. Yep.
Okay. Unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Because they're all racist.
Yeah.
I don't know if the kids are, but the adults in this are.
Power wielders are.
Dave Sexton knew that his brother Eddie Lee would not like that she was living with an interracial couple. The shelter and the other couple were fine, but this was the last straw. So Dave calls Eddie Lee, tells on Sherry. Yeah.
If his brother won't like it, how about you just don't tell him?
Yeah.
How about that?
Sherry's out. You can let her be out. She escaped.
Yeah.
Let her be. But nope. Eddie Lee calls Sherry. I mean, she's brainwashed.
Yeah.
So convinces her to move back in with Dave. Okay. And that's her story throughout these past few months.
All right.
Before Eddie Lee and that crew of Sextons moved from Indiana to Florida, Eddie Lee made a family video.
Oh, God.
And he sent the video to President Clinton and Attorney General Janet Reno. Yep.
Janet
Reno. Aren't you feeling very 90s right now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The video was 3 hours and 9 minutes long.
It's not a snuff film, is it?
No.
Oh.
It's like informative. Him sitting in front, demands and
so it's like
talking and speaking his truth.
Like a video manifesto.
Yes, kind of. Eddie Lee was clean cut and sitting at a table with wood paneling in the back along with a family portrait.
Mm-hmm.
He opens the video with, "Citizens of the United States, I am coming to you in hopes that in some way, some official of the United States government can step in and find out why a family such as mine has been treated in such a manner. I feel that our constitutional rights have been violated. Our civil rights have been violated." That's his opener.
He feels his rights are violated? Well, you can't just feel your rights are violated. You gotta say what rights are violated and give examples, but whatever.
His feelings are hurt.
Yeah.
For 15 minutes, he blamed his daughter Michelle. Then he moves on to Otis and then the Stark County DHS. All of them.
Well, you're right about blaming them, I guess, maybe.
He blames them
the
all
reason.
for all of his problems. The video then cuts to May sitting at the table next to Eddie Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about a fair number of topics, but while she was speaking, she would periodically look up and to the side as if she was trying to remember something.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Coached, rehearsed.
It's clearly.
Yeah. Under coercion regardless. Yeah.
Then one by one, each child took a seat next to Eddie Lee, and they would respond to what he said with only a yes or a nod.
Okay.
Then he interviewed all of the children one at a time, and we don't have to get into what they said, but it was clearly rehearsed.
I feel like he's making his case for the prosecution.
They're not good actors.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I'm totally normal. Consult my 3-hour manifesto video.
Right. Yeah.
With my 20 fucking kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is normal.
We're totally fine.
Yeah, it's normal to send this to the president of the goddamn country.
Yeah. He ended the video with a plea stating that they were an all-American family and he was a good American. All he wanted was to return to his normal life with his wife and children. You don't have a normal life, man.
Return to? You never had it.
We're saying what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
You can't return to that. No. Refuse. No. There were 3 videos sent out in August of 1993. Now it is September of 93, and DHS is finally awarded full custody of the remaining Sexton kids.
Good luck finding them.
Right. So if you remember in part 2, they were fighting for custody of the kids that were still minors and on the run with the family.
Yeah.
This way they could take legal action and say, hey, we have a missing child.
Yeah. Kidnapping charges, theoretically. If they're pulled over anywhere in the country, boom, they can be arrested.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they immediately file missing persons reports for Kimberly, Matt, and Chris. Cool. Those are the 3 left that they can save.
Yeah.
Right. By now, it's been 18 months since Michelle's initial report. It seems like a long time, but also a lot has happened.
The wheels of justice.
Detective Reedy spoke with Uncle Otis, and Otis told him that Eddie Lee receives Social Security checks still. And they're being sent to their brother Orville.
Orville? You're fucking with me.
No, I'm not. I knew it. I kept that name from you for so long.
Otis and Orville?
Yes.
How do you expect a family to grow up with Otis and Orville? Those names. Sorry, those are the two ugliest male names in my. I've always said this, and then bam,
Orville was on your list.
Orville
really?
and Otis. Yeah.
Orville?
I
don't even think of that as a name.
Most male names that start with an O, I can't stand. I'm gonna get so much shit for saying this. I don't think I have any male friends with an O sounding name.
We don't know any Orvilles.
Yeah.
So I guess we don't
Or
care if we don't
Oscars
know
or
them.
Otises.
Sorry, that was rude.
Okay. All right. Where were we now?
Otis told Detective Reedy that Eddie Lee was still receiving Social Security checks and that they were being sent to brother Orville. Yes.
Oh, God.
And Orville is sending them to Eddie Lee, or actually Eddie Lee is coming up to pick them up.
Oh, he's coming to pick them up in person.
Yes.
All right.
Otis and Detective Reedy don't know this tidbit. They know that Orville is in communication with Eddie Lee.
Orville is getting the checks to him.
Yes.
They don't know the nuts and bolts of it, but he's getting the checks to Eddie Lee. Okay.
So clearly they must be communicating. Yeah. Reedy follows this paper trail, and he does find where the Social Security checks were being cashed. They were being cashed in another city in Ohio, but still in the same county.
Okay.
So nearby, Reedy is noting that. He's going to keep an eye on that. Reedy was tracing the movements of the Sextons. He found his way to Indiana. He knew they were there, but he couldn't figure out where they went to next.
Okay. Dead end.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Eddie Lee is setting up a whole life in Florida. He's living off the grid, and every 2 weeks, he takes a 2,000-mile round-trip drive for his Social Security checks.
Did they discuss why they're not mailing it? Did they just not trust the mail? You could send a mail to a fake name in a P.O. box.
Nothing that I read or saw questions this part so specifically. I can surmise that Eddie Lee thinks he's smarter than the system, and if there's no paper trail to Florida, then they can't find him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They're still being sent to someone, though.
The feds should just cut it off. Just cut off his payment.
Exactly.
You're a wanted criminal.
Exactly.
You're paying a fugitive.
This should be cut off at the top.
Yeah,
yes.
Just cut off. Don't stop sending him payments.
Stop sending it. Ugh.
You're paying a fugitive to stay on the run.
Mm-hmm. Also, during this time, Eddie Lee has started to talk about insurance fraud a little bit more, mentioning life insurance policies, and Pixie and Willie are starting to mention getting rid of Joel and how maybe a life insurance policy could help them.
Yeah, and he is only an in-law.
Right. It's something that's only come up a couple times at this point, and it's only been mentioned in a joking tone.
That's how it always starts. They just float it as a joke. I was joking.
Mm-hmm. Joel was treated horribly.
Yeah, of course he was.
I mean, clearly the jokes about this were just the tip of the iceberg. He was always treated lesser than in the Sexton group, but
You're
now...
not blood, boy.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, with tensions being high, it's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like everyone took their frustrations out on him.
Nerves are getting frayed.
Yeah. He was once forced to eat a live fish. Yeah, just because. He was also beaten so badly by the Sexton boys one time that Eddie Lee got mad at his own sons for it.
You whipped him too hard.
Yes.
Okay.
Another time, the Sexton boys poured hot sauce down Joel's rectum. The violence and chaos of the Sexton family was becoming too much for Dave and Jean Sexton. Eddie Lee was gone every 2 weeks to get those checks, and so the kids would have parties and get mischievous while he was gone. This is when they did most of the mean and hellacious stuff to Joel. Mm. Because of this, Dave and Jean said, "You're done. You have to go somewhere else with this. Be gone with you." They left the Florida Sexton compound, is what I started calling it in my head, in September, and they all loaded up in their camper, including Sherry and her son, Chris. So they've added more to their RV.
To the troop.
Now they have 14 people in this camper.
Jesus.
And by early October, the Sextons were parked at a state park in Florida. They stay in Florida now, and they just hop to different state parks.
That's so swampy.
Mm-hmm.
This is so fitting.
They were all squeezed into the RV, which was only a 24-foot RV. And it was only meant to sleep 8 people.
There's only one toilet in there.
They were also only allowed to be 8 people per site. And they only have one site.
Oh, you mean like the lot they rent at the... Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking that too. Like, I know they might charge for a vehicle, but they also have a personnel capacity.
Yes. So this meant that not everyone could be outside all at once. Not everyone could be outside during the day.
You got to hide and go in shifts.
Yep. You have to be quiet. And you have little kids, Chris, Dawn, Shasta, Skipper.
Stuffed
in
in an
Kimberly
closet.
Is only 9 or 8 at this point. I mean, even there's young kids there.
In a sweltering hot swampland RV.
It was also really rainy that October.
Oh, God.
So everyone was just crammed into that little camper.
Mosquitoes.
Little Skipper Lee wouldn't rest. He got really fussy and wouldn't stop crying.
He's still a baby at this point, right?
He's a baby.
Okay.
Pixie gave Skipper some baby Tylenol, and she crushed some aspirin and rubbed it on his gums. She also gave him some adult strength NyQuil.
Oh, he's going to die, isn't he?
She gave it to him every day.
Oh.
He was teething. Teething.
Yeah.
Is what's happening here.
She's not a first-time mom.
Right.
Why does she not know the basic... I've never been a father, and I know what teething is.
There are 14 people in this camper, and they've been on the run. I can't imagine where your mind is, right? I'm not giving her any excuses here, but she's not thinking.
Yeah.
She's not. One night in October,
a
rainy night, Pixie was getting Skipper Lee ready for bed. She gave him the standard half a cap of NyQuil before bed, which became regular for him. Mm-hmm. Then she curled up next to Skipper Lee to go to sleep. And the baby woke up around 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and wouldn't stop crying. Pixie gave him more NyQuil. It didn't work. After 30 minutes or so, Eddie Lee yells, "Get that baby quiet or I will." Pixie then slaps Skipper back and forth in the face about 10 times.
That'll work.
It's a technique that she's used with her older kids to shock them out of their fits.
She remembers that, but not that teething as a concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
When this didn't help Skipper Lee, he continued to cry. Now he's screaming.
Yeah.
So Pixie places her hand over Skipper Lee's mouth to quiet him. She held her hand there until he fell silent. Once Skipper Lee was quiet, Pixie fell asleep. When Pixie woke up, she screamed for her dad. Skipper Lee was gray, with his eyes wide open. Charles asked Pixie what happened, and she replied, "It just died."
No, she killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not an it.
Yeah.
That's her quote.
That's always telling. Yeah.
And she refers to Skipper a few times as it, not even post-death, but like as he's alive too. She never really fully connected with him, I don't think.
Okay.
Charles tried performing CPR and mouth-to-mouth. It wasn't working. Yeah. Charles said that he recalls his dad was, quote, "calm as all fuck."
That tracks.
Yeah.
On brand, as they say.
Charles Skipper Lee died on October 19th, 1993, murdered by his mother, Pixie.
On that sobering note.
Mm-hmm. Eddie Lee told the family that Skipper Lee died of crib death, which is another term for sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS.
Yeah.
Eddie Lee tells the family this, and everyone believes it. Pixie, I think, believes it. I think her brain
believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pixie and Eddie Lee decide to bury Skipper in the park, in that state park.
Okay.
Pixie dresses the baby in burial clothes. His rigor mortis was already setting in. Mm-hmm. Skipper Lee wore a white shirt with blue overalls. Pixie placed a pacifier in his mouth and a rattle in his hand. They then placed Skipper in a white blanket and put him in a duffel bag. And then they put the duffel bag inside 2 trash bags. Joel carried the bag and dug the hole for his son while crying and saying, "Why me? Why did this have to happen to my son?" Poor Joel. I feel so bad for him. And he, at this point, he does believe that it was an accident, that the baby died of SIDS.
He just died. Okay.
Yeah. After Skipper Lee was buried, Pixie placed a dollar store silk rose that was inside of like those clear glass tubes that you get from the dollar store.
Oh, yeah.
She put that on his grave or on his burial site. Yeah.
I know Joel had some issues himself. Like, no one was like, we can't bury a human on state park.
To your point, Joel was upset that they weren't giving Skipper Lee a proper burial.
Yeah.
This upset him. He was saying he wanted to contact the authorities.
Yeah, like, he just bury a baby in
he wanted to do it properly. If nothing was wrong,
what are we hiding? Yeah.
And that's how he was. What's going on here? Because of this, Eddie Lee tells Pixie, if this keeps up, we're going to have to take him out. Yes.
I have to old yeller him.
While this is going on at the state park in Florida, Detective Reedy is still working it. He is trying to track down the Sextons. He was interviewing Michelle, Lana, and James, just again, circling back.
He heard from them, that kind of thing.
Yes.
He reached out,
He was trying to get some type of a case built against Eddie Lee to take to the grand jury. Yes.
Yeah.
October 18th, the day before Skipper Lee is murdered, Lana was taken to the psychiatric ward at Akron Children's Hospital. She was having her fits again, speaking demonically. She said she had a dream about her dad, that he was telling her to kill herself and her foster parents. The next day, October 19th, brother James was also admitted into the psych ward at Akron Children's Hospital. He was having psychotic episodes, and he mentioned a dream he had of his dad telling him to kill himself. Then, a few days later, Michelle reported to DHS that she had a dream the same night. She mentioned the same date, and she said she heard her dad and other voices telling her to kill herself and her new husband. Nothing comes of this. This is just an interesting story.
Oh, I thought there was going to be like,
no, these are real dreams they had.
In their houses.
Nope.
He was...
Nope. These are true dreams, a true story.
Oh, he must have been sending them messages on the astral plane.
Listen, man, I don't know how to explain that one. I didn't dive deep into it, but they all had a dream. And granted, they're heightened in general at this point, but they all had it at the same night or around the same night.
I wonder if it was a recurring dream for them all originally, if their dad had like indoctrinated them with the concept of if things get dour for the family, take yourself out.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's all of that working in their minds. Because of all of this, Detective Reedy was worried that Lana and James wouldn't be well enough to testify to the grand jury later that week.
That's a fair concern.
Reedy was also still waiting by the mailboxes where those checks were coming in. Reedy also took another statement from Michelle, who her last name is now Croto.
Okay.
I don't know if she still is today.
But at this point in the narrative.
She retells the story of her father raping her in the parking lot to Reedy, but she added that he did attempt to penetrate her when she was 15, but she was too small at the time.
Okay.
So he tried then forcing her to give him oral, and when she refused, he smashed her head into the coffee table. From that story alone, Detective Reedy counted multiple felonies.
Yeah.
So Detective Reedy's already yes, already here we have something.
Yeah.
She also told Reedy of the ritual things that they would do at the Sexton house and how one time they all wore black and held hands in a circle around a dead cat. But they don't really know why they're doing this stuff. They're just doing it.
Yeah.
So it's cult-like. There's no strong belief system.
It's an approximation of it. It's like he got like a Reader's Digest version of cults and I can make my own, but he's he's going through the motions that he's
It's
seen.
like half-assing his own cult.
Yeah, like he's pretending this is how they do it, right?
Yeah. There was another time when they were all hunting, Michelle says, and Eddie Lee made them drink deer blood.
All right.
Yeah. Eddie Lee would also marry his own daughters. Mm-hmm.
All right. They weren't legally married, right?
No, in their living room.
Okay.
There's photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm like, there's no.
I'm not posting those photos,
No.
but I saw them. I saw more than I wanted to see with this. Oh, yeah. Okay. After they would get married in their living room, he would then take them on a honeymoon in the master bedroom.
A honeymoon to a different part of the house.
Yeah. May would also go into the bedroom with them.
Oh.
Yeah.
My stomach just rolled over a bit. That just made it worse.
Okay. October 21st was when Michelle and Detective Reedy were having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
He then asked Michelle, will you testify this afternoon? And she agreed.
Okay.
Testify to the grand jury.
Yep.
Yep.
Get it going.
Detective Reedy then spoke with Uncle Otis, and Otis tells him of abuse that he's been suspecting over the years, like we mentioned in part 2, and also the Futuretrons and the deals with Burger King and Wendy's. He's just saying, I'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
Otis told Reedy of the mock-up art that Michelle made at Eddie Lee's request that I posted from part 2 already. So if you do want to see the Futuretron drawing that Michelle did because Eddie Lee told her to, I do have it on our Instagram account.
Yes.
Yeah. The day after Michelle testified to the grand jury, Detective Reedy receives a call from Otis saying that Eddie Jr. wants to talk.
Okay.
Reedy heads over there, and Eddie Jr. tells Reedy that his dad sexually abused him while he was growing up. Raped him at the age of 13 or 14.
Okay.
He told Reedy that his dad has done this to his other brothers as well, and that Eddie Jr. also saw Pixie and Eddie Lee having sex.
So he's just raping everyone in his family.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't discriminate on their sexes or anything. He's just...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's more as well. The siblings are doing things to each other as well.
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell too many of those because I think that they're in a situation in their life that they didn't have control over.
Been shaped.
Yeah.
They've been habituated to it.
I said enough for everyone to understand how they grew up, but it's a tough one to navigate. After only talking to a few of the Sextons, Detective Reedy had half a dozen potential crimes already. Eddie Jr. also agreed to testify to the grand jury, and he testified on October 21st.
Okay.
Lana and James were also able to pull through. They got better, and they were able to testify as well.
All right. So they're building a strong case then.
October 25th, the grand jury handed down their indictments. Eddie Lee Sexton was facing 4 counts of rape and 4 counts of sexual imposition and child endangering.
All right.
Yes. So finally, they're going for it.
Those are all felony counts.
Yes.
So
8.
8 felonies total. Good. All righty.
Yep.
So
Detective.
cut off his social security check.
Yeah. Well, I think now they don't want to because they have a thread.
Yeah.
Right. So nothing comes of that. They're still sending them, I think, because Detective Reedy probably wants them to now.
Yeah.
Detective Reedy phones the FBI on November 5th. And they already knew of the Sextons because they received a video from them.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, hey, actually, we know those guys.
He actually contacted our boss, like our boss's boss, the president.
Yep. So then 3 days later, November 8th, the FBI is connected now with an FBI satellite person or correspondent in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
So they have like they're ping-ponging from the FBI headquarters to the branch office in Ohio. As this is going on, Mae Sexton calls the office, and she's been calling a few times now, trying to set up a meeting with the officials, but she was still insisting that they were doing nothing wrong. When Mae called, Agent Howell answers, and he speaks to her and tells her of the warrants for her arrest. for the kids that she has that are now in DHS custody.
Yeah, so she's wanted
She needs to hand the kids over, and she won't.
Yeah.
She denies everything. Everything with Eddie Lee, everything with herself, all of it.
She's also now aiding and abetting a fugitive and knowing where her wanted husband is and not facilitating his surrender.
Mm-hmm. Howell tries to convince her to turn themselves in, and she says that she would need to talk to Eddie Lee and that she'll call back the next day. She never calls back.
Of course not.
Back at the state park in Florida, Eddie Lee was never going to turn himself in. We know this.
Yeah.
He was actually drugging May through her food, just kind of knocking her out, not trying to kill her, but
get her drowsy.
He would always fix her dinner plate, which was unusual.
He doesn't seem like a guy that would just prepare food for his woman.
Right. And she noticed that she would fall asleep soon after dinner, and she would sleep well into the next morning. This is why I think May started calling the officials, because I think she realized, like, oh shit, what's he going to do with me?
I'm on the chopping block.
Right. Eddie Lee has now moved his family to a different state park. Now it's November in Florida. November 30th, 1993, a librarian at the University of South Florida in Sarasota saw Joel, Pixie, Willie, and Eddie Lee.
I wouldn't have thought they'd be spotted in a library of all places. That's like finding an Amish person at the mechanics, isn't it?
Yeah. This is a very bizarre interaction. Pixie and Joel come in first, and they ask the librarian about SIDS.
Oh.
Pixie asks the librarian, how does a baby's head and arms look when a baby dies of crib death?
Because the librarian is going to know that.
Right. So the librarian...
Not too good, probably.
Yeah. She's trying to help, but she's also like, this is weird. Then Willie enters the library.
Okay.
And they mention to the librarian that they're staying at a state park off of the highway. But Pixie was very unfocused, and the librarian said it sounded like she was repeating a story to herself, saying, we were camping, I had a baby, now it's dead, the old man is the father. What the fuck?
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Like this weird mantra.
Yeah,
she's just
like repeating, yeah. Pixie then said she lost the second baby this fall and didn't have time to name it.
All right.
She also said they were driving looking for a clinic and got lost, and that's why they ended up at the library.
Okay. Likely story, Pixie.
Yeah. They told the librarian the baby was in the car and offered for her to go and see it.
No thanks, I'm good.
She refused. Yep.
Y'all see our dead baby in the car?
Yeah. The librarian calls the campus emergency line.
Yeah.
And it is just students that answer those calls, and they thought the librarian was making it up, and they hung up on her.
You know, those merry pranksters, librarians, always calling the local kids to say they found a dead baby. Yeah. What? Like, yeah. What plucky pranksters those librarians are.
Why wouldn't you at least go see?
Yeah.
Let me just go take a look. There's no way it's a dead baby. It's probably a dead possum or something.
Maybe they
I don't
thought
know.
It was another college student calling, pretending to be the librarian.
That's a really deep lie, though.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, apparently dead babies just don't get people out of bed like they used to.
Guess not. Eddie Lee then arrives 30 minutes later. So they all come in kind of on their own time. So this librarian is like, what the hell?
Shh.
Yeah.
Keep your voices down.
They spent 3 hours in this library.
What?
Yeah. Eddie Lee's just being really weird. He's asking for information about Native Americans. He's still on that thread. Yeah. But he's also being weird with the kids. The librarian notices. She sees that Eddie Lee was angry with Willie for getting lost. And she saw Eddie Lee dig his nails into Willie's collarbone. You know how, like, when someone's trying to be quiet but hurt you and they grit their teeth and grip into you?
Yeah.
He also did, like, a quiet slam into the bookshelf. Like, this is all happening, but it's like a quiet struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Eddie pulls Willie into the men's bathroom, and then Eddie Lee exits the bathroom alone. Eventually, Willie does come out. He's not dead.
Okay.
But it it's a few minutes of a gap there, and you can only assume what happened inside was a bit of a beating. The librarian then overhears Joel say that he wants to go to the airport. He wants to fly back to Ohio. He's clearly upset about something. She also saw Eddie Lee be rough with Pixie and how he was upset with Pixie for talking to the librarian.
Mm-hmm.
So she said too much. Then the librarian left for her lunch break.
Can you guys wrap it up? Because I clocked out.
They're still there. So she went and sat in her car.
This is like when a waitress is like, hey, my shift's coming up. I'm going to pass you over to so-and-so now. Can you mind cashing out with me?
Yeah. She was sitting in her car eating her lunch when she saw Eddie Lee in a nearby field with a shovel digging.
Oh, so he leaves the library also.
Yes.
And he's digging in the field.
Yes.
Normal.
She doesn't know what he's burying. She doesn't see, but
it can't be good.
He's burying something.
They were talking about dead babies.
Right. Now, I didn't know how to fit this into the storyline because this is a whole side thing, but Skipper Lee has been dead for 6 weeks at this point. He's already buried.
He's in the
it's
state
not
park.
him.
Yeah.
Eddie Lee, though, is burying someone. It turns out that Sherry did miscarry.
Okay. That was her reference to the second one just died.
Yes.
A little bit ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why Pixie was saying that over and over again. I don't know, but Sherry miscarried. Did she naturally miscarry? Yeah, that rhymed. I know.
Yeah.
Did she naturally miscarry, or did it get punched out of her? I don't know. I'm assuming something traumatic, the way that Pixie was describing it.
And she said the old man was the father.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Pixie's world is kind of crashing, I think.
She would have been giving birth to her own sister or brother. Or whatever.
Yeah. When the librarian came back from lunch, they were all still there.
Where'd you go?
Yeah, I know.
We were having a thing here.
Your helper didn't help us.
Thought you were in the bathroom this whole time. You okay?
Eddie Lee comes back inside, and the librarian overhears Pixie say something about putting a cross on the baby's grave, and then she heard Eddie Lee say, the only way Joel is going back to Ohio is in a body locker.
Weird way to phrase that.
Yeah, I read that was a way that you would say it like Vietnam days.
Oh, okay.
Like
before body bag, they'd say body locker.
I think that's how they shipped them, was through body lockers.
Okay.
They did have body bags, but I think that's more of a military term.
Ah, okay.
Joel became more upset. He was wanting to go to the airport, and at this point, Eddie Lee chokes Joel, and they all leave. He just rushes them all out.
Okay. Well, after 3 hours, he rushes them out.
Yeah. Finally. Yeah.
You don't have this book after all, do you?
They all went back to the state park, and they've been at this state park for about 2 months now.
Mm-hmm.
It is now January of 1994. Eddie Lee was like, hey, we're staying here a little too long. We should probably move.
Yeah.
But man, there's this real nice RV that just pulled up. It's bigger. It's newer.
It's the deluxe line.
Yeah. And the owner was by himself, and he had a physical disability. He could use some help, don't you think? Yeah. This gentleman had a physical disability. He was able to do everything himself if he needed to, but it would take longer, and he was fine with that, hence traveling alone.
Yeah.
But he was always appreciative of help from others. It helps his day, right?
Yeah,
He gets
course.
things done faster. Naturally, Eddie Lee is intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, hey, I'll be your friend. He befriends him pretty quickly, and soon he sends Pixie over in an attempt to seduce him. Now, the neighbor is accepting of the help, but he's also noticing like how interested they are in him.
Yeah.
So he keeps them at arm's length, but also is like, no, they're helping me.
Yeah.
Why not? Sure.
Never befriend someone who's got kids in the double digits.
Yeah.
Just never. Rule of thumb. Just stay away.
Right. And now the Sextons were no longer going by the Sextons. Their last name now is Wise. So Eddie Lee Wise, Pixie Wise, Willie Wise.
Wise?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
Wise.
Yeah.
The neighbor, again, keeping everyone at a distance. He didn't know what was going on, but what was really happening behind the scenes was they were planning to kidnap, kill, take over his identity, and take his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Classic.
Upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Now back to Detective Reedy.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke with Orville Sexton.
Mm-hmm. Good old Orvie.
And Orville admitted that Eddie Lee did call him. So Detective Reedy looks up the phone bill and he sees Dave Sexton's phone number.
From Florida.
From Florida. But also a number that he didn't know. And he was like, let's look into this number.
Yeah.
And it's the number of the state park that the Sextons were currently at.
In Florida still.
In Florida.
Yes.
And the FBI confirmed they were still there.
Yeah.
They begin prepping. They have some undercover campers go down there to get in there. Yep. They start talking to the campground owner. And the campground owner is no longer allowing anyone to renew their site rentals.
Okay.
Except for the Sextons.
Gotcha.
So they're slowly
trying to clear
clearing
people
it out.
So,
and they're letting undercover campers come in. So there's no
all right.
like weirdness to the Sextons. Right. So they're working. They're working.
Knowing this is the FBI, this seems like it's going to go. I mean, this seems that they have all the chips in place.
Yes.
But somehow he's going to get away.
It is now mid-January of 1994.
Okay.
The FBI were closing in. However, the Sextons were armed to the brim. They never stopped being ready.
Yeah. Armed to the teeth, because it's America.
Right. The FBI didn't really know what they were going to get themselves into. So they were there and ready, but they were cautious. In the end, there was no big bang at all.
Oh.
The FBI followed Eddie Lee, May, Chris, Kimberly, and Pixie to the local Winn-Dixie.
I was going to say, just wait for them to leave the campground.
Once they parked their car and opened their doors, the FBI swooped in and grabbed them.
Yeah.
That's it. Eddie Lee and May Sexton were held in the Hillsborough County Jail on fugitive warrants. Chris, Matt, and Kimberly were flown to Ohio and into the custody of DHS.
Okay.
Later that week, Eddie Jr. drove to pick up Sherry and her son. Willie, Pixie, and Pixie's two kids decided to stay in Florida with their uncle Dave.
Okay.
They were still trying to work that neighbor. Nothing comes of it, but they were still trying to work that campground neighbor.
Yeah, the old man with the fancy...
Yeah, they're still holding out hope for that. Sherry would agree to DNA testing of her son 1 week after they were found. She's like, yep, test him up. We know who's the dad. Like,
it's also needed for trial to be like the DNA test show.
Yes. So she agrees.
Yeah.
Detective Reedy interviews Charles and asks him, where is Joel and Skipper Lee?
So Joel's not accounted for when they swoop him up.
Correct. Charles said that Joel was picked up in a gray Buick a few weeks before Christmas and went to Ohio.
That's it. That's all he knows.
Yeah.
Some guy picked him up and took him to Ohio.
When Reedy spoke with Uncle Otis, Otis said that he heard that Joel was picked up by a woman in a red Nissan. So what's going on here?
Yeah.
With Eddie Lee arrested and behind bars, Charles was now willing to talk. Charles tells Detective Reedy that Pixie killed Skipper Lee. Charles really wasn't sure at first because he believed the crib death story, but Pixie accidentally admitted it to Charles that she suffocated
Oh,
Skipper
so she did
Lee.
know. Or she at some point accepted it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if she meant to kill him in that moment.
Yeah, I can see not murder in the sense
But
of,
she knows
I'm trying
that-
to cover your mouth to shut you up and, oh shit, you're dead.
Yes.
I didn't know my own strength or...
She knows she's to blame.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Right.
yeah.
Charles also told Reedy that Joel was dead and that he was killed 1 month earlier at another campground.
Did he say who?
Not yet. When Detective Reedy interviewed Sherry, she gave a little more detail to the story. She said that Willie, Joel, and Pixie went for a walk in the woods. And then 15 minutes later, she heard Joel yell, "Eddie!" And then when Sherry started to walk over there, Willie shouted at her, "If you go into the woods, I'll fucking kill you."
Yeah.
So she didn't check it out.
Yeah.
This was enough for Reedy to connect with a homicide detective.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, we got to bring someone else in here. All right, there's something else happening."
Yeah, they've stepped up their game.
Yes. They arrive at the first campsite where Skipper Lee was buried.
Yeah.
They have a lot of police and a canine unit, and after 20 minutes, the dogs catch a scent. And then soon the police were picking up a silk rose, and they found Skipper Lee.
Okay.
Then the police went to Willie and Pixie in Florida because they hadn't been arrested because they didn't know that Joel anything was wrong. So they go get them in Florida. And Willie, if we remember, his IQ is very low.
Mm-hmm.
He quickly admits to strangling Joel.
Oh,
and he says he did this at the behest of Pixie and Eddie Lee.
Oh.
They told him to do it.
Yeah.
Willie showed the police where he buried Joel, and Joel was only 23 when he was murdered.
So he was strangled.
Mm-hmm. He was murdered 1 month after his son.
Oh.
According to Willie told Joel to come into the woods with him to take care of some stolen goods they had. They would periodically steal things.
Yeah, scavenging kind of family.
Willie said that there was a struggle and Willie landed on top of Joel and that he strangled him for about 1 minute. Willie said he immediately regretted it and tried to, quote, blow my breath back into his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Didn't work, though.
Yeah. When Eddie Lee was interviewed, he said Skipper Lee died of SIDS, and Willie, Pixie, and Joel buried the baby. Eddie Lee said he learned of Joel's death only after he returned from a family picnic. He said he found Willie over Joel's body. So Eddie Lee blames Joel's death entirely on Willie.
On his son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Detective Reedy then interviews May, and she was saying that she was a victim as well. None of her children told her of any of this, and she had no idea, blah, 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 blah.
Throw the book at her.
Yeah. May was sent to Ohio to face her grand jury charges.
Okay.
Eddie Lee had to stay in Florida because he had a first-degree murder charge on him for Joel.
For Joel, yeah.
Yeah. Pixie was also facing murder charges for Joel and Skipper Lee. Willie was facing 2 charges, one for Joel and one for being an accessory in Skipper Lee's death.
Okay. Ooh, charged with murder in Florida. That's not good for him. Whew.
Dawn and Shasta, Pixie's daughters, were taken by DHS and examined for sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
Their DNA was also tested.
See their paternity.
Mm-hmm. They never tested Skipper Lee. Joel's family did not want that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Sexton children, the ones that are still speaking about things today, they do believe Skipper Lee is their dad's. Yeah. I think that too, having read it, but I think that Joel wants a son. Yeah. And why take that from him?
Yeah.
Joel and Skipper Lee had a double funeral, and they were buried together in the same casket. Skipper Lee was cradled in Joel's arms, and they were buried in the same plot as his parents.
Okay, back in Ohio.
Yeah. He finally got his proper burial.
That's nice.
Yeah. Willie and Eddie Lee were co-defendants in Joel's murder case, as well as Pixie. They were all being charged for murder with Joel. And this wasn't going to work because Willie was very scared of his dad, and he would also be incriminating himself if he testified against Eddie Lee. So in order to kind of split everything up, they looked at Pixie. They said, all right, Pixie, we'll make a deal. We need you to confess to manslaughter for your son, Skipper Lee, and then just throw yourself at the mercy of the court.
Yeah.
I don't know why that would be helpful, but...
Because she's charged with murder.
She's charged with murder for Joel and Skipper Lee.
Yeah. So I'm assuming they'll dismiss the murder of Joel charge if she pleads guilty to the manslaughter, which is a much lesser.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then, so, I mean, it is a good deal for her because I don't know what the state laws are in Ohio or what they were in the 90s, but like in Michigan, manslaughter is a 15-year.
This would be in Florida.
Oh, Florida. Oh.
Because they did the murders in Florida.
Okay. So murder, first degree in Florida is a death penalty.
Yeah.
So manslaughter is a term of years. I don't know if it's 10, 15 years. That varies on state. So it's a good deal for her to plead guilty to a 15 or 10-year felony and get first degree murder, the death penalty just taken off the table.
Okay. Yeah, well, she takes that deal.
Yeah.
So it must have been explained to her well.
And it sucks for Willie.
Yes, but now because of that, I guess Willie and Eddie Lee can testify separately.
Yeah, because she'll presumably be giving evidence against both of them.
Yes. So okay. So they're separating everything.
Yeah.
Okay. She was the one that split the thread that cut it all.
Yeah. So
Okay.
2 separate trials.
They will.
Yeah.
Yes. Pixie, after she did her plea deal in the trial, Pixie said she heard her dad, Willie, and Charles talking about killing Joel, and said she saw Willie strangle Joel. Pixie said when Eddie Lee came home, he went over and kicked Joel's body, then looked at Willie and said, "Finish him off."
Oh, so he wasn't dead.
I don't know.
Oh.
This is Pixie's story. Neither confirm nor deny. I don't know. Pixie also admitted that Shasta and Don were Eddie Lee's kids.
Yeah.
Everything's coming out. Evidence from the camper that they were staying in. The kids were also talking more. Otis and his daughters and other nephews, other nieces, like other family members just from everywhere are finally saying, "Oh, I saw this back in this time."
Yeah.
And kind of like how Otis was like, "Oh yeah, since 1979 they've been weird." Well, now other family members
I didn't
are
do
saying
anything
stuff.
about it. I
Right.
saw it, but
Yeah.
I didn't do anything
How
about it.
heroic of you to come forward now that all the kids have been through hell.
Now that it's done.
Yeah. While they were looking through evidence in the camper, they found a silk robe and a nightgown with a silk blue bra. This was for Kimberly to wear, the youngest. She's 9 at this time. There were also 2 photos of Eddie Lee with Kimberly found, and 1 photo of Eddie Lee and Lana. Lana and Kimberly were wearing wedding veils and sheer lace skirts. They were photos from when they got married to their dad. And they wore like sheer lace things.
Ugh.
Right. As evidence is piling up, the evaluations that Don and Shasta went through, those results are now back. The testing and
the DNA analysis. Yes. Okay.
And the evaluations they had for sexual assault.
Okay.
It is discovered that Don and Shasta have both been penetrated anally. Don was showing evidence of also being penetrated vaginally. Neither one of them could control their bowels. They're like toddler age-ish.
Oh my God.
And even if you're still in a diaper, not controlling your bowel, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can tell.
Yeah.
You know, this is a big sign for abuse and also having been sodomized, which did occur in this family. When asked, Don said that it was Willie, Charles, and Grandpa Eddie. So Detective Reedy's head is spinning at this point.
Yeah.
There's a ton of sexual assault and just nastiness everywhere.
Yeah. How do you charge? Everyone's a perpetrator.
Yeah. And this is, I've read this in the book, and I'm sure other people don't care about this, but I do because it's my name. When Reedy was talking to a DHS employee about the case, the employee, she noted the irony of the name. And when you separate it, Sexton, ton of sex. And she also noted the meaning of Sexton as maintaining a church graveyard. I hate that now this is in my head.
Now it's ruined your name for you.
Because I've had those jokes, like growing up in middle school. Sex a ton of sex, sexy town, like all of that. But I've always loved the fact that there's a creepiness to my name, though. I remember being like 11. Oh, you think my name's about sex? You think that our ancestors did sex stuff? That's how you get your name, isn't it? Your job? Well, mine took care of the dead. Now I don't know what to do with it. Anyway.
Knowledge is a curse.
So after all of this, the kids were struggling to cope. It's all done now, right? They still have the trial to work for, but their home life is totally different. Sherry was hospitalized in a psych ward. She was dealing with depression and PTSD. Eventually, down the line, Sherry did give her son up to DHS. She could only see her dad when she looked at him, and she couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Which I understand, ? Like, I've never been in that position, but I can see it.
Yeah.
Lana was still going through demonic episodes. Pixie had a complete mental breakdown at the Hillsborough County Jail. She was put on antidepressants and anxiety meds. In April of 1994, Pixie was on an IV because she stopped eating and drinking. She had a suicide attempt. 1 month later, Pixie tried self-harming and was put into restraints. She was having auditory hallucinations of Eddie Lee.
Mm-hmm.
When she slept, she would have nightmares, and then she did have another suicide attempt. May 12th, 1994, Mae Sexton was on trial.
Yeah. Get her.
Yep. James Sexton testified in this trial, as well as Lana's foster mom and some other kids.
Mm-hmm.
The foster mom spoke about Lana's episodes, and James told of how one time Eddie Lee had a dead baby sitting on the table, cut up and cooked.
Oh. Whoa.
Right.
I didn't see cannibalism coming into this.
Come on.
You
We have
never
everything.
You never really see cannibalism coming until, bam, it's just on a plate in front of you. Where do you get the baby? Is it one of his families?
Yes.
Okay, they just have a family off the books somewhere.
I do think that they've eaten baby. I do. I don't know when. I don't know how often.
I am not going to make a Chili's joke.
Yeah, don't. He said that Eddie Lee got the baby from his mom and that babies disappeared all the time.
Oh.
So I don't have it in front of me, the order of the kids and how many gaps there are in their ages. But for a while, she's having them once a year.
That's like a
and
3-year
then
gap.
there's like a 3-year gap. And then there's there's like a 2-year gap. And you kind of go, wait a minute.
What was she doing?
What's happening here? What's going on?
All she was apparently good for was being a broodmare.
So I do think there is some credibility to this.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Then it was time for Lana to take the stand. Lana spoke about one time when she was 8 years old. She was taking a shower and the bathroom was near the master bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
When Lana was drying off, she heard her mom call for her. And then when Lana entered, she told Lana to sit on the bed. And Lana said that her mom would feel me in the wrong parts. When asked to be more specific, she said, my front private parts. She was asked to be more specific and said her bottom front. I mean, I hate that they kept asking her over and over again, but we know where she's going.
We all know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Lana then said it lasted a few minutes, and then she went to bed crying that night. Mae had no witnesses to call to the stand for herself.
Okay.
The panel came back with a guilty verdict within 2 hours.
Nice.
Mae was sentenced to 2 years in prison, and I think this was the max for what she was charged for. Yeah. Now we're in preparation for Eddie Lee's case.
His murder trial.
Murder and another one. There's a couple things, yeah. When Michelle was interviewed yet again, she mentioned that one of her mom's fetuses was as big as a notebook and her mom boiled it and served it to the family. Right. Multiple kids talk about
talking about eating babies.
Yes. When James Sexton was interviewed, he gave a bit more information about their day-to-day life. He said they weren't allowed to wear deodorant. They could only bathe once every 2 weeks. And their dad would put satanic spells on them.
Be careful of prayers. They could be spells.
Ooh. Well, Eddie Lee's covered because he also had an occult library, a crystal ball, Ouija board, and a romance shelf with hardcore porn that he would show the kids.
Romance shelf.
Yeah, and he would show the kids his hardcore porn.
Oh.
James also mentioned eating, again, Mae's miscarried babies. He then was asked what the baby tasted like, and he replied that it tasted like chicken, and that's why he still couldn't eat chicken.
Ew.
Like, I think that the interviewers think they're lying, so they're pressing these baby questions. Yeah. Well, what did it taste like? Well, how'd you get it? Where'd the baby come from? What's this? What's that? And they have answers.
Yeah.
They have fucking answers, man. It's terrifying. James also said that Eddie Lee forced him to perform oral on him when he was 6. Eddie Lee also made Charles and Matt perform oral on each other. James said he was sodomized by his brother Charles multiple times, and that Eddie Lee would give them each $1 to suck on Mae's breasts.
Okay. The scores of depravity in this family.
When James was asked what his best day was at home, he said, any day we didn't get beat. Now, this is all evidence for the murder trial, right? The prosecution is saying we need to understand where these kids came from in order to understand how this murder happened.
Yeah, it's part and parcel of the whole
in order to
theory.
Show that Eddie Lee is the reason. Even though he didn't put his hands on Joel, he's the direct reason for Joel's death.
It's like the Charlie Manson kind of theory.
Yes, that's why all of this is important. So the prosecution was shooting for the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Lee's lawyer was arguing that Eddie Lee didn't plan Joel's death. It was strictly between Pixie and Willie. Eddie's lawyer was writing a story that Willie and Pixie were incestuous lovers and wanted Joel out of the way. He was also arguing that all of those other statements the kids were making, they don't need to be heard in court. Only things directly dealing with Joel's murder.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that
That's
case.
Typical.
Yeah. However, like I said earlier, the prosecution disagreed and said, we need all of this to understand how that happened. We need all of it. The judge allows all the stories to stay in the trial.
Okay.
He also agrees with the prosecution, saying, how can you understand the crime without knowing where it came from?
Goes to motive, the whole everything.
Now, there's going to be 2 trials against Eddie, not for the same case, though. Technically 3, I guess, because of the capital murder charge. But the 2 separate trials, one will be for conspiracy to kidnap and murder the neighbor at the campground.
Oh, the disabled fellow.
Yes. Because the murder charge has nothing to do with child abuse, incest. It's none of that.
Yeah.
Detective Reedy was concerned that he might get out on that. He wasn't sure what was going to happen. A part of it was he wanted the kids to see that Eddie Lee's in jail.
Yeah.
And we can get him.
Yeah.
He can
the
be
system
hurt.
Works.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he wanted the kids to make sure they were going to talk. He needed to gain their trust that the system is going to work. But also he wanted to get Eddie Lee on multiple angles because he knew that the murder trial could fall apart.
Yeah.
So we have a conspiracy to kidnap and murder and straight up murder.
Catch-22, though, is if taking the conspiracy trial first, is if he is acquitted, then it's going to set the kids back even further, make them less likely to testify in the murder trial, which increases his odds of being acquitted.
Yes.
So it's a gamble.
It is a gamble, but they had good enough evidence to take that gamble.
Okay.
But yes, it did cross his mind as well. Like, oh, this is a gamble.
Yeah.
The conspiracy trial was set for August, and then the capital case trial would follow in September.
All right.
Willie Sexton was deemed incompetent to stand trial. Not insane, but he's
mentally.
He wasn't able to understand.
Yeah.
They did say, though, that they believe he would get to the point of understanding, so they wanted to give him some time.
Yeah.
He did have bandages on his wrist from a suicide attempt. He was skittish. He would hide under desks or in the corner of his cell. This was when he was still in just regular Gen Pop. After they realized he wasn't able to handle all of that, he was then committed to a program at Florida State Mental Hospital.
Okay.
August 31st, Eddie Lee's first trial for conspiracy. The first witness to come to the stand was his son, Charles. Now, Charles has not been doing well. He keeps changing his stories when he's interviewed, and he was currently in jail for burglary, so he took the stand in his jailhouse blues.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I gotta look for a jury.
Charles answered the questions about the conspiracy to kidnap and murder and to steal the identity of their camping neighbor. And this is a felony of up to 30 years, apparently, in Florida.
Okay.
That's what I read. I don't know if it's changed, but in the 90s it was. The trial was conducted, and by the end of the day, he was deemed guilty.
No.
And he will be sentenced to 15 years for this.
Okay.
So we got him. Now, Joel's murder trial. It was considered a high-profile case, and the jury had to make 2 decisions. The first one, is he guilty, yes or no? And then the second one, should he die for it, yes or no?
It's always been weird to me that in Florida, and I guess other death penalty states too, that the jury decides the sentence of death or not. I think it's weird that when it comes to a sentence, it's up to the jury to decide it and not the judge. The judge is there to... It's just weird.
Well, it's probably to help keep blood off people's hands. A group decided it.
Yeah.
Instead, it's probably
Yeah.
a mental thing.
Yeah.
I didn't kill anyone. We decided.
Same principle as having one chamber empty for
Yeah.
like firing squad.
Yeah.
So you can always say, I was the one who had the empty one.
Right.
All right. So yeah, jury's got to decide 2 questions.
Yes. Is he guilty? Yes or no? And should he die for it or have life in prison? Those are the options. Pixie takes the stand as a witness, and she was quiet and hard to hear. She said that Eddie Lee came up with a plan to kill Joel. Pixie's statement was all right. She was quiet and a little bit inconsistent, but she was okay. She did all right. Now, when the librarian was called to the stand, she told of her experience with them.
I imagine it's very meticulous.
She wasn't really.
Oh.
She was emotional, but it still worked. Like, she was the tipping point for the jury. When people asked the jury after, what made you decide? They said the librarian.
Yeah. Whatever she experienced shook her.
Well, she was finally an outside source that experienced them. That's not a he said, she said.
Yeah.
She's like, no, guys, it's wild.
They're fucking weird, man.
Yeah. She couldn't even answer what she saw, really, but she was like, I know I saw this. So she goes through and she does talk about Pixie referencing a baby. She talks about Eddie Lee possibly burying a baby. She's like, I don't know what he buried, but they're talking about baby. He's burying something. They're acting weird. I don't know. And then the defense is like, well, what baby if Skipper Lee died 6 weeks prior? Because sorry.
Mike Pop.
Moving my hands. She doesn't know that Skipper Lee's dead. She doesn't know that, I mean, now she knows that Skipper Lee's dead, but at the time she didn't. And
The
she
librarian.
doesn't. Right.
Yeah. Okay,
and she doesn't know that Sherry had a miscarriage and that's what was happening there. She has no idea, but she stayed by her word of, I don't care when Skipper Lee died. This is what they said to me. This is what I saw.
Yeah.
She didn't shake, but she cried and she was emotional, but her story stayed the same. Like,
they asked me if I wanted to come to their car and see the dead baby.
Yeah. And she didn't know who they were at the time. And then once stories came out, she saw the news. That's when she reached out to the police.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's how they got connected. She reached out to them being like, I saw these people. They're weird and they were burying something. Like, what is this? There were 5 days of testimony. The kids, Chris, Charles, Michelle, and Matt all spoke.
Nice.
As they did okay. They were timid, looked down. They acted like kids that have been through shit.
Yeah, and don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And,
so again, the librarian was the one who came in and really helped tip the scales in their favor.
Yeah, gave the outsiders perspective of it.
Yes. The defense for Eddie Lee only called 2 witnesses, his daughter, Sherry, and his sister-in-law, Jean, from Florida.
Okay.
Sherry blamed everything on Pixie. Sherry and Pixie, I think, just don't get along. Yeah. When Sherry was cross-examined, she admitted to always having a hatred for Pixie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then
So there goes that witness.
Yeah.
When Jean Sexton took the stand, she confirmed how Eddie Lee and his sons would beat Joel.
Okay.
So I don't know why Jean was even there.
Yeah,
she didn't really help Eddie Lee.
Yeah.
I don't know. Eddie Lee did not take the stand himself, which I thought was pretty surprising. The jury did, however, watch the video that he sent to the FBI.
The FBI and Janet Reno and President Clinton.
Yes.
Yeah.
After over 2 hours, the jury found Eddie Lee Sexton guilty.
I think after all that, after watching the video like that, even if I didn't think he really was guilty, like something's wrong. He's got to be put away.
There's something wrong
I don't want this guy walking the streets.
Right. And then the following day was when they needed to decide if he was going to have life in prison or death. The jury deliberated for 2 hours, and then the vote came back, and he was sentenced to death.
They do not fuck around in Florida with that.
No, they don't. Eddie Lee was not put on trial for sexual assault or incest. Uncle Otis was really pissed about this.
Oh, was he?
No, he became a really good advocate, and he did help the Sexton kids after all of this.
Oh, what was he pissed about?
The fact that Eddie Lee wasn't being tried for sexual assault and incest.
Gotcha. Okay.
He wanted more.
Yeah.
He was like, no, he did these awful things. We need to keep going.
Yeah.
So he became a big advocate.
Okay.
Yes. He was that, like I said, he's a slow burn. He's kind of shitty in the beginning. You're like, why didn't you do more? But he really turns up. He was picketing, protesting, getting people involved. Otis and Detective Reedy knew that if the murder trial ever got overturned, because the judge allowed all of that extra stories
for an appeal.
So they knew there was a possibility of Eddie Lee seeing the light of day again because the conspiracy sentence was only for 15 years.
He's not that old.
Exactly. I think he was 53
so
at time of the trials.
Conceivably serve his full sentence.
Right.
Yeah.
Mae Sexton, however, she was going to be released in 1 year with 0 sexual abuse charges against her. She's only serving.
Yeah, she doesn't have the death penalty go after her for the. Yeah.
So Otis is writing letters, writing to newspapers, legislators. He appears on Geraldo Rivera's daytime show.
Oh.
I know.
Nice.
And he confronts Eddie Lee via a satellite interview.
Oh, so Eddie Lee consents to interview from death row?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. What was a big thing in the day back then?
Right.
Was this
You can
live via
see
satellite.
it.
And like Larry King with his weird shoulders all hunched up, and it was live via satellite. We're bringing in.
Yeah. This was the biggest thing back then.
Yeah.
Eddie Lee did end up walking out of that interview.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't know what was said.
Stomping out.
Yeah. Finally, Otis's work paid off. In May, Sexton was to stand trial in August of 1996 for sexual abuse.
In Ohio.
Okay. She was charged with rape, complicity to rape, child endangering, and gross sexual imposition.
Cool.
There were 2 trials for the sexual assault charges. The first trial, Michelle and Chris testified, and they did okay. Then Lana took the stand and spoke of the time where her mom touched her private parts like she had before with her other trial. Now, this one is a bad story. Trigger warning here. It's a big one. Lana speaks of a time when she was 8 or 9 years old. And at this point, she's like 13-ish, I think, support young adolescents. Yeah. When Lana was 8 or 9 years old, her parents took her into the master bedroom. They closed the doors, and Lana asked them, "What are you going to do?" And they said, "Punish you." Mae then took off Lana's shirt while Eddie took off her underwear. Mae was at the head of the bed, and she laid Lana back. Mae holds Lana's arms up by her head. And then Eddie Lee bends Lana's legs up where her ankles are by her shoulders. And then her dad proceeds to rape her as her mom holds her down. Lana screams that they're hurting her, but they wouldn't listen.
Very Handmaid's Tale.
Yes. When Mae took the stand on her own behalf, she denied all of the abuse and said she wasn't aware anything was happening. She played a victim, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. No one gives a shit. You didn't help your kids. You can just fuck right off. I don't care, Mae. I don't care. You didn't listen to them. Yeah. I'm not going to listen to you. Fuck off.
Testifying that you didn't notice anything for however long doesn't do you any favors. Yeah, either you knew about it, which makes you bad, or you didn't, which makes you almost as bad.
Yeah, like you had to have known.
Yeah. You're either an evil participant or just callously indifferent and ignorant, which is criminally negligent.
Yeah. Yep. After 3 days of testimony, Mae was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
Nice.
And that was just the first trial. For the second one, she didn't have a second one. She pled guilty to 13 more counts.
Oh,
13 more counts, just so she could avoid the second trial. But she was still maintaining her innocence. She was eligible for parole in 2011. She was at the age of 64, and she didn't get paroled.
Oh, okay.
They did not allow it. I did find that she died at the age of 70 in 2017 of natural causes, but she was still incarcerated.
Oh, okay.
She never saw freedom again.
Cool. So she got straight life.
Yep. In 1997, Pixie was paroled. Otis was the only one that would pick her up. Yeah, her siblings do not like her. They blame her for just as much shit as they blame Eddie Lee and everyone for. Yeah, they do not like her. A couple of days after Pixie was living with Otis, she agrees to do an interview with a magazine or a talk show, like a fluff piece, a local...
An affair, hard copy, one of those.
And she was doing better, good for herself, I guess.
It's hard to do worse.
She shows off her many certificates that she received while she was in prison, and she said that she had an interest in working in hospice care. She also admitted to missing blocks of memories from her childhood. She however, still maintained her story that she did not mean to kill Skipper Lee. I think she now was saying, yes, my hand was over his mouth, but I didn't mean to. And honestly, she probably didn't.
Who's to say?
Yeah. She still mentioned in that interview, though, that Sherry was a bad mother.
Nice. Got to get your jabs in when you can.
I know. God. She blamed Eddie Lee for taking away everything she ever had and said she would never call him her dad. Yeah.
Good.
Michelle was pregnant with twins when she testified in her mother's trial. She ended up miscarrying those twins, she believes, due to the stress of testifying. But she was still married to her husband around this time. I don't know much else. A lot of these kids just fade away. I don't know where they are currently.
They're not living.
None of them stayed in the
lives.
limelight. Yeah, why would you? God, you just want to be
just living
left
their lives
alone.
wherever.
Willie Sexton, he kept being ruled incompetent to stand trial until 1997.
Mm-hmm.
Willie was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Now, go back 1 year. I did this kind of out of order. In 96, James was 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He was arrested and charged with murder.
For Joel?
Nope.
Oh.
Separate.
Oh, completely unrelated.
He burned his 38-year-old roommate to death in a fire while the roommate was sleeping on the couch. James said he saw his father on the couch and he didn't mean to kill his roommate.
Oh.
Yeah. In 1997, Eddie Lee's trial was overturned.
Oh, the murder conviction? Okay.
All the extra details that the kids gave were deemed unnecessary, and another trial happened. However, Eddie Lee was found guilty again and again sentenced to death.
Okay.
Yeah.
Footnote.
Yeah, I know. I just want to put that in there. In December of 2010, prison guards found Eddie Lee dead in his cell, having died of natural causes.
Okay. So he died before the
yes,
execution could be carried out.
He died on death row.
All right. Probably had a bunch of appeals pending still.
So, yeah, I'm sure. In 2012, Eddie Jr. was a part of a string of robberies over the course of 3 days. He also had a substance abuse problem, and he was sentenced to 12 years.
Do you know what state that was in? Is that Ohio?
I'm guessing Ohio.
Okay.
That's where Eddie Jr. was living.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Willie Sexton was released in 2007. I'm assuming good behavior.
Yeah.
And, Willie is in a current episode of Evil Lives Here on Hulu. The episode name is Fear Thy God. Willie and Charles are both in this small documentary. It's a short one. I watched it because I was curious to see how they did it in less than an hour. Watch it, guys. It's from Willie and Charles, their perspective.
Yeah.
They do not get detailed like this at all because it's about their family. But I think you see the human side to them and you see where they are now. And it's nice to see.
Yeah.
Charles has since gotten much better, according to this documentary. He looks good. He no longer has thoughts of suicide and is married with a son and a daughter. Willie seemed to also be doing well. I didn't see what he was doing. I don't know where he is in life, but in the documentary, he looked okay.
Okay. Cool. Good for him.
Yeah. Again, I don't know what happened to the rest of them. I hope Lana found peace. I know she was going through it. They're full adults now, so I hope that everyone's okay and they have found comfort, joy, and love and are living good lives. That's it. That was a big one.
Yeah.
And we're done.
3 episodes. Our first triptych.
It could have very easily been 4 episodes, but I did not want to do it.
Brother Dave has a whole other side quest. And I'm like, oh God, another one.
We left that out. Yeah, we don't need another one. No. That's why you can't ask any questions about them because there's a lot of answers. Oh, but yeah, I'll put all of my sources in the show notes. My brain is broken now and I can't think of where I got anything, but I know I have them written down and they'll be in the show notes. Again, we have an Instagram. Follow us at Borrowed Bones Podcast on Instagram. Please also rate and review us on Apple and Spotify or anywhere you listen. It really helps us a lot. Thank you so much. And I don't know. I just hope you keep listening to us next week. We're going to go a little bit lighter. I need a break.
Yeah. I don't even know what the topic is next. Do I know? You probably mentioned. No,
I've mentioned a few. I'll see what I throw in. I'll see which one I feel like doing. I have a few that I've been researching. So we'll see. It'll be lighter, easier, friendlier. Yeah. So thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.